I'm making the center wing panel, and I've made the one side off camera, but to show you some parts, those are where the nacelle struts go. And you can see there's that clear opening that I've cut out of the skin, and I put a little piece of clear acetate overhead projector film in there. And the bottom, those are going to be, I think, for the landing gear, where they're going to end up connecting. And you can see that it folds right together. And there's all of these struts. These ribs. I didn't show how to do this because it's very easy. You cut them all out and you put them together and glue them. Now I have to color parts because that little window is open. So you can see that spar I've colored already. And what I discovered was if I used this color marker, and I mark up my little rib or whatever I'm going to use, and then I give a second overlay color of this kind of bright orange. Oops, the wrong side. Of this bright orange, then you end up with something that kind of looks like a pleasing color. It's supposed to be sort of an orangey brown color. And then there are the ribs that were cut out of some 1/16 sheet. And here's this area. I painted that little area this light color to look kind of like, I suppose, some kind of linen or something. Could be lighter, actually. And then I put in a piece of that acetate right in that hole. It's glued in with contact cement. You can see there it is. And then you can see the ribs, little riblets are on there. And I made marks where they're supposed to go. And what I've done is make these little tiny ribs out of 1/32 sheet. And what I did was I used that already cut out piece for the spar forward and turned that into like a template. So I just cut those out, made 2 of them, sanded off the little front end to make it round, make it look like the leading edge. And then I used this little hole punch. It's a leather punch, I think, for belts and stuff. Put a little mark where where this hole is supposed to go, and I gave it a good squeeze, and I end up with this nice little hole. And the idea is that's not actually scale, but it will look cool because that's where a control cable is going to go through. And did this thing where I colored with the one kind of tannish color and then overlaid with the orange. And make sure I did the same thing on the edge, a little orange in this case, and it was too bright, looked too orangey, so I dulled it down with a little bit of that ugly brownish, whatever color that is. And there your ribs are ready. Oh yeah, and I also put just a Sharpie and stuck it on either side of the holes in order to sort of close them up and make them look dark on the inside. Because that hole, like I said, is where a little control cable is going to go through. That would have been, I guess, for the aileron. I'm assuming that's what these windows are for, is to check the control cables or things here. Now I basically made sure the rear end trailing edge was together, and then just kind of carefully put them on there. And you can see I've drawn lines where the holes are for the struts, just to help align where the spars are going to go, because the spars should be in relatively close position to those areas. And now you just test fit, and you roll it over, and it's actually kind of neat to look in that window and see things. I'm trying to get that to line up with the spar as close as I can. That being where the little nacelle strut goes. Now I put a little piece of super glue, and then I put a rib in where it's supposed to go, and I've drawn a little line where it's supposed to go based on the printing on the top side. And you just sort of tweak this around and get it as straight as you can. And I keep folding it back on itself to see what it looks like. And what you can do through the window, what you can do is keep tweaking it a little bit until you get it just the way you want it. In my case, I had to actually pick it up and move it a couple of times. I was way off. I thought I was right on, but I was kind of off. But you keep playing with it until you get it the way you like it. And you can go from the back side under there and see I'm kind of tweaking it with the tweezers underneath or from behind. And then you put the second one in. And you basically let those dry. And again, you fold this over and just make sure it's all fake, but is it going to look good in that window? Sure enough, it does. Then I make my cable out of some thick Easy Line, what I'm using to rig the whole machine, actually, and I just fish this through the hole, and then I glue either end down. Because of the way the camera is sitting and stuff, you can't see. I'm actually putting a little dot of glue on the inner surface, and I just glued down the piece of that piece of elastic thread onto the underside inside of the wing. And then I'll come over here and do the same thing. And this one I think you can see better. A little dot of glue, and then I grab that elastic thread and just pull it down and touch it onto that glue spot like that. And again, you can't really see it because I get into my work and then I forget that you can't actually see anything. But all I did was that. Made sure, I'm just cutting off the edge, but it's glued there and on the other side. And now I've got, basically, when you look through the window, a line of that cable going through. It looks pretty convincing. So now it's a matter of playing around with this until you get it just the way you like it. So it's a lot of test fitting, trying to make sure everything's right. What I ended up doing was lining up the inner rib flush, where it's going to go in the fuselage, and then the outer rib doesn't matter so much. I can kind of tweak that and sand it down and stuff and make sure the trailing edge comes together. And I'm trying to get those holes for this. You can see there's still a gap in the front there. Trying to get it so it's clean. Here I've got the inner edge clean and looks like it's pretty good and solid. Looks fine. And now I'm checking a few times to see, are these straight or in line? You can see it still needs to be moved a little bit. And I just kept playing with that off camera for a while until I got it right. So now everything's lined up, and now I'm just gluing these pieces extremely quickly. And start with the bottom. And the bottom has an undercamber, so you have to make sure you get that in there. Flip that little flap up. And then again, what I do is line up where I think, again, I've test fit it a million times, and I sort of know where those spars are supposed to go. Make sure that inner part is flush with the skin, and then I just very carefully kind of go around and squeeze just to make sure I get everything glue in contact with paper, and making sure that I get a little undercamber in there. And I just keep playing with it over and over. So a lot of this is just me pushing down to make sure it's drying. Then I make one last check and I look, and see, those little holes are in line with that spar. So I think I'm, at least from side to side, I'm good. So then I take some glue and a piece of wire, and I glue up all of the ribs and everywhere that the glue is going to attach, where the top little skin rolls over. So put this all together, including that back flap, and then you roll this puppy down, and you just want to make sure you get it even, and again, in line and everything, and you want to make sure everything touches, and you want to pull it so that it will make a nice curve, and you just start tapping it down, and it starts to glue. Now, I almost cut this part out of the movie, but I think it's good to have. I'm actually kind of crooked here. And so what I was able to do, I'm really carefully pushing it down, but I realize I'm off. So here I kind of carefully pull up this edge with a little work, and then I'm able to sort of twist it and move it and shove it over just a little bit, slide it a tad, and now I've got a better edge there. That actually looks better. Now notice that part where my thumb is on, the interior, or where the outer wing panel is going to go, it is actually, it's a little proud. That's a 1/16 piece of balsa. So, probably it's a little thick anyway. So what I'm going to do is let that dry, that piece there. I can just sand that off, which I did with a sanding block, and got it down to be flush. Making sure the trailing edge is good, making sure everything looks clean, and it's just a matter of sort of pressing and moving with your hands and fingers. And then there's my window, and I have to say, they look pretty cool. And there's more to do on the rest of the wing panels, but that's how I'm going to do them all. So just check in to make sure it looks good, although it's too late to fix it now. And there I've just mocked up the nacelles on there. They fit remarkably well. Nothing's glued in place, just kind of show you a general idea of it. But man, it's going to look cool. It's going to be very strong too. And the fuselage, of course, will fit in the middle. And so, life is good. That's what the thing is going to look like, at least a little bit. when I finish it. I think I'll work on the other wing panels, and then we'll do the fuselage, and then we'll start putting it all together. It'll be pretty dang cool.